Hey there! Bob from Oregon's Caustic Art. Welcome to the OCGFAM show to you, my YouTube buddies. What's going on? Let me know in the comments. We'll talk about it after the show. But right now, let's just get into the show. Some of the most popular episodes we do are when we cover one nutrient and dig in deep on that, describe how to use it, why to use it, should you use it, shouldn't you use it, that sort of thing. And that is what I have today on Circes Serum. It's I think you'll find it interesting whether you plan on using it or not. So watch the clip, and I'll talk to you after.
Good answer. Great answer. All right. Sticky Rick. How can we incorporate Circes Serum into bloom strategies? I'm very interested in trying Circes Serum. What can we expect? At what point in flower should we start and stop using it? What is Circes Serum?
That's the pork bone.
It's the pork bone meal.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Herc, but you found that it's not like Herc in some ways.
Well, it is enhancing different terpenes for one thing. The solubility is phenomenal, so that's awesome. We haven't added the gum in it, so it's not as thick, so it won't build up on the soil surface as much.
So is it a replacement for Herc? Is it an addition to Herc? Is it a specialty
I see it
thing
as an addition. A lot of people, I mean, I know we've said it before, the reason why we made it is so we could get our product line out of the country without bovine in it, and it's just pork instead.
Yeah.
But then we started seeing what people are seeing in their terpene profiles, what they were seeing in the availability is phenomenal. Some of the things we've heard are things like, I started incorporating Circes in the last couple weeks of vegetation to help that transition into flowering, and then they see faster flowering times and responses. So we're seeing quicker sexing of the plant. We're seeing trichomes develop sooner than they normally had with just the Herc. So a lot of guys are doing the one-to-one so they can enhance that part, and they're just basically getting another week of flowering. You know, out of an 8-week cycle, if you're not seeing flowers till day 10, you know, that's 10 days of just transition. Well, if these guys are seeing them, you know, day 3 or 4, they're like, oh man, I'm already seeing trichome development and a sex. That means they can to push them harder throughout the cycle.
Getting up earlier in the morning you're getting started earlier.
A little bit, yeah. So, you know, I now have guys that are finishing with just that instead of Herc. They like their. I mean, it's again, we've offered you this recipe.
Figure it out.
Here's the ingredients to, you know, not all of us like the same spaghetti sauce. So here's this to be able to dial these things in for your genetics. What I can say, if you're trying to enhance the earthy terpenes and the fruity terpenes, then this is a great one for that, in the sense of start pumping it week 3 through 7 as a terpene enhancement. If you're just looking for the bone meal part of the development of the flower, the size of the flower, the flowering cycle, stage, speed, then, you know, I would start it much earlier, like the last couple weeks of veg, and then run it all the way up until the last week before harvest. I've yet to do it as a finisher by itself. I still like Herc and Afro, but there's a lot of guys running it that way too. So, I mean,
is this more a Demeter's Athena's thing, or a Pegasus Persephone Triton's thing, or I mean, what is it? Is this more in the line of the base nutrients and additions to those, or is it more in the flavors and things like that? This is
because it could replace Herc in a sense. If you really didn't want to do cow stuff, this would replace the Herc piece, and we'd see very similar outcomes, but we'd see a different terpene profile. And we'd see a whole different solubility.
How does it differ from, say, Demeter's or something, where you're getting some more calcium, but different calciums? Or,
you know, that's the trick, is what in pork in that bone meal, because it doesn't look the same, it doesn't digest the same, it doesn't, I mean, there's nothing that reminds us of bone meal when we're using the pork bone.
It's like a steak and a chicken. They're different.
Yeah, it's very
they're the same,
different.
but they're very different.
Yeah, and so, you know, I've always liked the bone meal because I've yet to find a plant that doesn't just go, oh, man, every time you give me that, I feel good.
Any plant.
Yeah, but this is like almost the same in that regard of it helps build structure, it helps set flowering stages, it helps the mycorrhiza grow, it helps the root development. We're really, I mean,
there's no downside.
No, I mean, it was so awesome we decided to make a alkalinity fixer, but then add that as a bloom enhancement, because most people in our line are seeing their pH drop in that mid, second, third week in bloom because of their water source. And so everyone is, well, then I have to water at 8 pH with Olympus up. And you're like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, you're not feeding the plant. You're just trying to correct this pH. So we made the Chimera for people that were running into alkalinity issues because, if you're using RO, rain, or bad well water and it's stripping all the calcium and the pH out of your soil, it looks great in veg, but once you start going into bloom and they stop wanting the nitrogen and are starting to focus on calcium phosphate, well, it's not there. And so, that's I think, where did I just lost that train of thought? That's crazy.
If you had started with Circes, would you have still made Herc?
Well, we never would have been able to start with Circes in the state or in this country because there is no pork.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get pork bone, but it's blended with turkey, chicken, and beef.
Oh.
So, like, our pork bone is the only product we get out of this country outside of peat moss from Lithuania and cocoa fiber from India. The pork bone comes from New Zealand because it's the only place that has pork-specific processing. And so you can pick up their bones as pure, clean New Zealand pork bone, and there will be zero turkey, chicken, pig, or cow. So that's kind of why we started with bone. I mean, we're in America. Everybody eats hamburgers and steaks, so bones are very plentiful. I mean, they're byproduct. They're waste. I mean, they're literally throwing them in landfills when we don't buy them. Not enough people are buying bone meal for farming, which they should, because it builds soil, it builds plants. I've yet to find a plant that doesn't love this bone meal stuff.
Yeah.
But, so we stuck with that one because it is way more available for us to be able to find. But man, after we got our hands on pork and finding out how fast it digests, how fast it solubilizes, how fast it breaks down, we're like, holy crap. So, back to the Chimera.
Yeah.
That's why we liked it so much. We don't put bone meal in Chimera.
Yeah.
We put pork in it because it is... When we put the Chimera in to fix your alkalinity, it's correcting a little magnesium deficiency because everybody thinks they have a mag deficiency because their pH is off. So we fix their pH by giving them a fast little bump of dolomitic lime, which is, magnesium oxide. Magnesium oxide and calcium carbonate is dolomitic lime. So there's a little percentage of that. The rest is calcium carbonate from limestone. And then we put a big punch of pork bone in there. So when you start watering that in, you scratch it in, it's just like one shot. We made little pellets. That soluble pork starts breaking right down. It starts feeding the mycorrhiza and the bacteria. They start eating the dolomitic lime, which then charges the plant, gets it green, fixes the magnesium problem. Now the pH in the soil is now balanced. And so from that point on, anytime your pH wants to drift, the limestone breaks down and buffers the pH of your soil, so it's always maintaining that mid-6 to 6.8 pH. Now in the Midwest, I got a bunch of folks going, well, I see they have Chimera, I'm just going to put it in. It's like, your soil's already at 7.
Yeah.
Now you put a mega pH booster in there, so now you're at 8. So now they're fighting that because it's never going to come down because you can't give them enough acid to bring that 8 back down to 6.4. So, and I don't know how to get it out to every store out there because, the distributor model is garbage right now and nobody's educating anybody.
No.
So, without them tuning into the show, which most guys are too busy to tune in, and I don't blame them. There's 1,000 of these stupid shows out there. But this is when the customer is so important because I've had customers watch this and like, hey, GrowGen Illinois, here's the reality of this product. Don't put it on people that aren't having pH issues because it will screw their pH up way too high. And we've had growers go around and educate their stores. So at least if you're a grower and you're buying Chimera from your store that actually, bless their hearts, picked it up, thank them, but educate them on what it is or, encourage them to watch episode number 20-something at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think of that? Informative, entertaining, helpful? Let me know in the comments and we'll talk about it. I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. The OCG Fam Show. It's pretty good. It happens every day. It's the OCG Fam Show. See you tomorrow.